Hi, everyone. It's Kelly from the Hub. I am here today with Pastor Jim from Bergstrasse. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, Kelly. Thank you. It's getting a little humid, but hey, tomorrow's July.
I was going to say, it's super summer now. We are
Yeah, it
we are
is.
fully
Yes.
into it. So, we were talking beforehand, and there's a if any of you have ever been to a Bergstrasse on a Sunday morning, Pastor Jim regularly begins his time with his congregation, and he talks about where is God? Like, where have you seen God in during your week? And it's a really interesting time for the congregants to sort of to reflect and to see how things sort of show up in their lives. And so I think we're going to talk about that. Where is God? Where is he? Where is he in your life right now?
Wow, that really is a really good question. And it's actually one that I imagine many of our viewers have been asking since mid-March.
Yeah.
In this time of, when we're asked to stay inside, we're not supposed to associate with people, we're not supposed to be close, you got to wear a face mask, you got to stay 6 feet apart. It's like, where is God in this? And when I first came to Bergstrasse, that was actually one of the first questions that I started asking whenever we gather for worship. Where have you seen God? Where have you seen God at work in humanity? And I think for me, I think it's important that as people who follow Jesus, that we understand, who God is. And it's one of those things that I think we could kind of say, well, God is everywhere. Well, yeah, God is everywhere. But how do we discern and how do we know that God is at work in our daily lives? Not just on Sunday morning for a specific period of time. And that has, for me, I think that has always been one of my ministry things, is to help people to see that God is at work every moment, not just 9 o'clock on Sunday morning or 10 o'clock or whatever time you gather for worship. And I think especially now in this time when many of us have not been able to gather for worship in a building. And for people who think that God just shows up on a Sunday morning in the building that you gather for worship, I'm sure they've struggled. They've struggled for 3.5 months.
Right, because they don't know where he is.
Exactly.
Yeah, they haven't seen how he's working or not working or any of that.
How God is working with it. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I'm coming to and trying to help people to understand is that in many Christian traditions, we talk about, well, you got to have a relationship with God. As part of being a Christian or part of being a person who follows Jesus, you need to have a relationship with God, Jesus, some type of a deity in whatever, even in whatever faith you do. And I think what happens is, for me anyway, what has happened is I've been taught so much knowledge about God, but I'm not sure that I ever was taught how to build that relationship. And what kind of relationship do I have with God versus the relationship that I have with you, Kelly, my friend,
right,
or with you, our viewers who are checking us, listening in whenever. And I think what happens is you and I, Kelly, have a very different relationship. We have a business relationship. We have a friend relationship. I get to see you on Zoom. We get to share life stories. We get to have coffee together. Yes, granted, it's not in person, in physical, but you know what? I know you're there.
Right, I see you. I get to interact with you.
I see you moving.
Yeah.
You're there. I see it. But when I talk about God, my relationship with God, it's like, well, I know God is there, but God's also there for everyone else too in the world.
Right.
So what does that mean for me? And I think where I'm at with it and would like to help and willing to discuss even outside of these interviews, I think God is a being unseen who gives us emotional and spiritual support. And with that, at least for me, as a person who follows Jesus, I use the stories and the life of Jesus to reflect more of how I might live as a more God-filled person. So for example, when you look at the stories of Jesus, Jesus went to the margins. He went and met people who society seemed to cast aside, or maybe people that you and I've cast aside. If Jesus were here, Jesus would be out there meeting them and talking with them and giving them some type of an emotional support. Jesus never told them what to do, but he made them think. And he made them think for ourselves. And I think that's one of the things as people of faith, I think sometimes we forget that, or we don't more fully embrace what it means to, that, I have a responsibility in this relationship too. I've got this emotional support from a God who loves me. And the thing is, that's the other thing too, is I don't need to do anything to gain God's love, because God has already loved me from the very beginning. And that's something that doesn't happen for people. We say it, but we don't necessarily live it.
Right. There's a lot of people who say the only relationship that I have that is absolutely pure is the relationship you have with your pet. Because
Yeah.
you walk into the house, no matter where you were, how long you were gone, your pet loves you unconditionally. And a lot of people, so I love dogs, that's my thing. And a lot of people have said, well, that's the reason why dog is spelled that way, because it's just God spelled backwards. And so, right, and like that's how it was designed that way. Some people have said that it was designed that way. And so it's harder to have human relationships because they're not set up that way. They're not set up that they automatically love you top to bottom.
We're complex. We are complex in ways that we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
That we all have stuff that we struggle with. And when someone doesn't struggle the same way that I struggle, it's like, it creates discourse. It creates difficulty in life. I was recently introduced to a new phrase, and actually I believe it's imprinted on a bracelet. I've not seen it also. So do you remember, I don't know when this was, the 80s, 90s maybe, the big thing and that were in a lot of churches were, what would Jesus do?
Yeah, and you could get that.
You wore it in a bracelet or whatever.
Right, and you would like look at it and think, oh, and like that was your reminder to be nicer, be kinder, or whatever.
Well, now I have an answer to you.
Okay.
I have an answer to that question.
And that would be?
Jesus would love them. Hands down. Hands down. What would Jesus do? Jesus would love them. JWLM. Now, and maybe this is next week. Are you saying that I'm Jesus or you're Jesus? I am. I am. God's work in the world, God's presence in the world is most exemplified in the way that you and I treat our fellow humans. Even those that disagree with us or that disagree with me. And we are in a world right now where agreement.
All we do is fight. We just fight all the time, no matter what. We're fighting about things that normally people would never fight about.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see as the people that will gather on Sunday morning at Bergstrasse. I have no idea how many people will be there.
Right. This is the reopening of
This is the
worship
first
in
time
your building.
for in-person worship. Yep. And it's for me, it's not like a reacquaintance with God. It's like, okay, where was God with you in these last 3.5 months?
Right. It'll be very interesting to see what people say on Sunday.
Yeah. And I mean, it's and when I talk about we, I mean myself and the leadership team of Bergstrasse Church. We've even set our own protocols and standards that are not going to be like what we had before. I mean, I'm not going to be able to hug people and shake hands and whatever.
Right.
Got to stay 6 feet apart, and we're going to be wearing face masks. And yet, in the midst of all of that, God's presence is there.
Yeah.
Because as I look at each one of those people, I will only see their eyes, but I can see the presence of God through Jesus Christ in each one of their eyes.
Yeah.
That, for me, will be a great blessing. And not a blessing for me as Pastor Jim,
Right.
but a blessing for the world.
That's wonderful. Thank you, my friend, as always.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.
See ya. Have a great week.